I think last fall there was a book study and discussion group on this book right here, The Art of Dying Well. It sounds really depressing, but it really isn't. It was very uplifting and is just chocked full with practical information, with inspiration, and it helps us talk about a difficult subject. And it seems to be more difficult in the western country of the United States of America than anywhere else. And that's probably because youth is so idolized. You know, I know a joke I'll tell you. This Bertha Jones, had a near-death experience. And she saw God. And she said, "God, is it my time to go?" And God said, "No, you've got 40 more years." So when she came back around, she decided, well, I'm getting a facelift, I'm dyeing my hair, I'm getting a tummy tuck, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And when she finally left the hospital after all those surgeries and recuperating, she was hit by a delivery truck. So when she gets back to heaven, she said, "God, I thought you told me I had 40 years. And God said, "I'm sorry, Bertha, I didn't recognize you." Okay, that's from the world's greatest church jokes. This book is a progressive book. It starts in the front at a certain place, and then it progresses just as our lives progress. So I like this chapter. This is the first one. You may find this chapter useful if you recognize yourself in some of the following statements. You easily blew out all the candles on your 50th or 60th birthday cake. Health problems are annoying but not limiting. You pay your own bills, make your own decisions, drive, and generally enjoy life. You wonder why they make the numbers on credit cards so small and fuzzy. Your hair is thinning in familiar places and sprouting in strange ones. You misplace keys and names and cell phones and hearing aids. You're not crazy about technology updates. You've discovered naps. You injure more easily and recover more slowly. You find obituaries interesting. You sometimes sense that your time on earth is limited and precious. So I want to tell you about my friend Carol Lee. Carol Lee lives in Virginia. She's 83. She is the one who recommended Living Presence book to me. She has been here on 2 or 3 occasions because she came and stayed with me to have dental work done in Mexico. I welcomed the opportunity to have her company. Carol Lee called me on Saturday, and she said, "Well, I want to let you know I'm going into hospice. I've made the decision to go into hospice." And I said, "Okay." And so we talked for a good 30, 40 minutes, even though I was sitting in the car in the parking lot. We talked. When I first met Carol Lee over 26 years ago, I was at my former church, Unity of Fairfax in Virginia. When I arrived there, they were beginning to raise money to build a new church. So that was my initiation, fundraising to build a new church. There was somebody even sent me an email, said, "Seems like you'd get to know us before you had us build you a new church." I thought, you know, you learn a lot being a minister. So we had to put things in storage. We had to vacate the premises. For a while, my office was in a furniture store, and we met in a high school. So it was quite the adventure. Carol Lee comes into the church one day, first time I'd ever seen her and met her. And she said, "Well, I'm looking for a place to have my memorial service." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I'm having some heart surgery. I think it was a triple bypass." And she said, "If I don't make it, I want to know where my service is going to be. Can you show me around? Well, I took her into the sanctuary, which was piled with chairs and desks and bookcases. And she was an interior designer. She goes, "Oh, this will never do." And we just became such good friends. So she handed me the memorial service. Since that time, she's done 3 of them. 3 of them. I revised it 3 different times. And so anyway, she's had a whole series of things. In addition to her heart issues, she's had cancer twice, one of it being a very rare type of cancer, and she survived. So now she's on oxygen constantly, and kidney disease and various ailments. And still, she is such an inspiration, because at the church there, she started the Sages group, a group of elderly people that meet to study the book Living Presence. So when I was talking to her, I said, "Carol Lee, I am coming to Virginia. My former associate minister made her transition, and I'm going back to participate in her memorial service." So I said, "I'm coming back to Virginia." And she said, "Oh, well, maybe you'll be doing my service too." For years, Carol Lee has been ready to move on to her next experience in living, right? And she says, "I don't know why I'm still here." And I said, "Because you want to go so bad. That's why." you need to find the blessing of right here and right now. You know, some cultures revere the older people. China, Korea, Mexico, Greece. We could take some lessons from them. So now I am going to actually use notes, because I've got a lot of information that I want to share with you, and I don't want to wait until an addendum. I believe it's in Germany. There is a woodcuts that show demons beneath a dying person's bed. And they're urging the dying to give in to one of 5 temptations: lack of faith, despair, impatience, which is a form of anger, spiritual pride, or avarice, which is not wanting to say goodbye to the cherished things and people of the world. Those 5 temptations. The associated emotions are fear, remorse, wanting to die quickly and just get it over with, or not wanting to die at all. 3/4 of Americans hope to die at home, and fewer than 1/3 of the population actually dies at home. These are things to contemplate ahead of time, because it'll happen. I don't want to disillusion you, but it will come someday. What is your goal about life and when this time comes? Is your goal to live as long as possible, or to live with as much quality as possible as long as you live? In 2017, a poll was done that showed 1/4 of the people want to live as long as possible, no matter what. 1/4 of the population. People who are willing to contemplate their aging and their vulnerability and mortality often have better lives in old age, and even through illnesses. We all know the losses associated with aging. We just don't think it'll happen to us. Okay, how do we adapt in the face of these inevitable changes? These are my principles. Remain curious. Somebody once told me, if you know you're going someplace else, wouldn't you want to know as much about where you're going as you possibly could? Where you're going is a spiritual place. Eventually, we will let go of who we are, but we can never let go of what we are. Who we are is temporal. What we are is eternal. So we will be moving on to another adventure in spiritual being. Frankly, I'm curious about what that might be like. What that might be like. Examine your beliefs now. Examine them now. Do you have some beliefs that you formed back when you were a kid? Like if your nose itches, company's coming, you know? Examine what you believe. And is it uplifting for you? Does it fortify your faith? Does it give you peace, as the Daily Word said? Does it make you smile? What are the beliefs? And sometimes that takes some true examination, because we have a lot of beliefs that are unconscious. Like, I'm too old. Don't believe that. Welcome your new experiences, whatever they are. And let go of fear. Seems like when we're younger, there's a whole lot of fear. You know, who am I going to be when I grow up? Who am I going to marry? And if I don't get it right, I'll do it again. If I don't get it right, I'll do it again. Abandon your fear. It's good for nothing unless you're about to step on a rattlesnake. Don't give yourself reason to be afraid just because you're thinking it in your head. Keep on the sunny side of the road. And this is my favorite. This is my personal spiritual practice most of the time. Become the witness of yourself. And as I said, realize who you are is temporal and what you are is eternal. Wear yourself like a loose garment. Wear your ego and your personality like a loose garment. And center yourself in the spiritual awareness. That's what living presence is about. Studies, don't you love that? Studies show that a sense of purpose in life and optimism are both associated with reduced risk of cognitive impairment. And you may think, well, I don't have a purpose anymore, I'm retired. Every moment of every day you have a purpose because you're here. Because you're here. And Carol Lee, putting herself in hospice, has still started this group at church. That was her purpose. Purpose, resilience, optimism, internal control, which is the power to choose, and social connections. High levels of any of these psychosocial factors have better physical functioning and lower rate of mortality. Having low social resources is associated with 29% increased risk of coronary heart disease and 32% increased risk of stroke. Without a doubt, social connection is the single most important thing as we age. Having a community such as this one, or a place where you volunteer, or there's any number of ways to build a social network. Your neighborhood, get to know your neighbors. That's a good idea. You never know when you might need somebody to lean on, right? Social connections improve your attitude, improve your health, improve everything. And you know what? If you think, well, I don't want to fool with those people, well, maybe you can learn something. Maybe you can learn something from other people. It's another important thing. Remain teachable. Keep your mind flexible and open. If you're not teachable, then I would say you're dumb as a rock. Oh, me. We can view the transition periods of later life not as crises, but as opportunities to redefine ourselves. Just don't go overboard like Bertha did. Now is the time to shed outdated sense of self, an outdated sense of self. You know, for years, not long ago, I wore stilettos. Wore them to work, wore them everywhere I went, danced like a nut job in my high heels. I want you to know I'm transitioning. If anybody wants stilettos, I got a bunch of them. Okay. Let go of unwanted influences of people and events. If it's not giving you pleasure or giving you wisdom or something, don't do that. Walk away. You don't have to be a friend to everybody. So let go. Unleash your creativity. Now is the time to do what you've been putting off for your entire life, or to return to it if it's something you did as a child that you truly enjoy. Get yourself a coloring book and some crayons. Somebody here gave me one, and I'm very happy with it. It's a way to relax and find your new purpose. Find your new purpose. I want to close by sharing with you something that Carol Lee shared with me. Years ago, in 2005, I took a 2-month sabbatical to Italy, and I stayed in Assisi. And it was awesome. We're going back. When I got back, I was telling Carol Lee all about it, and she said, you know what? I've always wanted to go to France. So she up and went to France for a month. Now, Carol Lee was Catholic by birth, was raised Catholic. So she shared this with me on Saturday. She said, I was in a small chapel in southern France attending Mass when I heard a voice. And this is what the voice said. I am a template for man. All that I suffered, he will suffer. Rejection, betrayal, pain, death, etc. To the crucifixion of the ego and the resurrection of the spirit. So Jesus, we say in unity, is our way shower, the template for dealing with all of the things that can make us old if we let it. But we're not going to let it, right? So we let go, we let God, and know that we have a way shower through the teachings and through the examples to give us courage and hope and a whole lot of love and joy up until my last breath and then beyond.